From the Post-Millennial, House GOP moves to reverse J6 committee subpoena against Trump advisors days before Steve Bannon is set to report to prison. So this is I believe it's Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz. I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene has also signed on. This is what Matt Gaetz laid out on this show. He said, basically, you nullify those subpoenas because they control the House, and they can, and then there's no convictions. So this is GOP Rep. Eric Burleson, Thomas Massie, and others in the House have co-sponsored a resolution to rescind subpoenas from the J6 committee that were brought against Steve Bannon, Mark Meadows, Dan Scavino, and Peter Navarro. This would also immediately remove the contempt of Congress convictions, as if there were no subpoenas, there would be no contempt. Bannon is required to report to prison to begin his 4-month sentence July 1st. Quote, it's past time for the House of Representatives to take action to begin undoing the harm that was caused by the illegitimate January 6th committee, Rep. Burleson said in a press release. This is the right thing to do, and I hope all members of the House will join me in this effort. All right. I'm not super confident, but I don't see why this would not pass.
Yeah, I think it absolutely should pass. I think it's much needed support. We saw Garland, just months ago on tape, the Attorney General of the United States say that he can defy and ignore congressional subpoenas that he doesn't agree with. So there is an obvious double standard here and two-tiered system of enforcement. If you're a conservative like Steve Bannon or, Peter Navarro, and you defy an illegitimate, that's another crucial point I think that people need to realize. The January 6th committee is not a legitimate committee. It had no authority to send subpoenas. It didn't have, a ranking minority member. There are a lot of other issues with it. So it didn't have any authority to send these subpoenas in the first place. But when Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro defied those, they weren't doing anything wrong. And for them to be, held accountable for that, but not Merrick Garland, I think it leaves the American voter totally confused, and they're able to see through it, and they're able to see that this is just weaponization of the judicial system.
I like this because it is action, right? I think it's an interesting, rather than saying like, oh, darn, they've defeated us, and I guess you got to keep appealing or whatever, like it is the Congress saying like, we have a way to do something about this. They do send a lot of strong-willed letters, but in this case, it seems like they are moving forward in a way that could help people that are being unfairly targeted and punished, in my opinion.
Yeah, they say they're very specific that the committee, this January 6th committee, was operating without a ranking minority leader, which you mentioned, Kingsley. That's not customary for the committees. I don't know if that might actually disqualify them from being able to order subpoenas. And also that the Republicans on board were Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, who were not supported by the GOP at the time, but they were just put there by Nancy Pelosi. So I don't know if this operating without a ranking minority leader is enough on its face. Matt said it was. I'm pretty sure he was saying that it was.
Honestly, I don't know that it matters. The House can pass it. It's the House. They can just say, we do, because we vote. There are subpoenas. We say no. There you go. Gone.
So if the House votes to rescind the subpoenas, it doesn't go to the Senate. That's it.
Well, because this is a House action. It's only into itself. They're not passing a law. The House subpoenaed, the J6 committee subpoenaed these people, and the House is now going to say, "No, we're doing away with those," and they should. But I'm wondering, do you think Republicans will vote for it, or they'll say no?
I think it'll definitely be a very clarifying vote. We'll get to see, who is willing to put their money where their mouth is. We see a lot of people on the campaign trail talk about the weaponization of the justice system, and they give lip service to what's happening to Trump, what's happening to Steve Bannon. But if we put this to a vote, we're going to actually see which members believe what they're saying and are willing to put their money where their mouth is. So I, hope to see that they're all the patriots they claim to be. Steve Bannon is someone who is a wonderful America First hero. I think he is really the architect of the Trump movement, and he's someone that we need to have in the ring as we approach November 5th. Absolutely. And that is why they're trying to take him out, right? They know that he is instrumental in this presidential campaign cycle, and they want to put him on the sidelines. It's been so obvious that that's, the entire game for them. That's why they're taking out conservative lawyers. They don't want to have a DOJ that's full of competent attorneys, so they're going after the ones that we do have. They're just trying to make sure that basically our entire bench is wiped out so that we have no personnel if we do win in November.
What is the name of this resolution? Is there a name for it?
I don't know that it has a name, does it?
Look.
Sorry, Hannah Claire, what were you about to say?
Probably does. They always do, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if they included the name here.
I think that that is sort of the crisis mode activity of government right now. And I think it almost speaks to how strongly how strong Trump is perceived by people, especially entrenched bureaucrats, because they're saying we need to make it difficult for them to start off on a strong foot, right? If going into 2025, these agencies are already staffed by competent conservative people who have American first values, then it'll be much easier to get things going. If you have to spend the first couple months, 3 months weeding everyone out, readjusting it, fixing staffing issues, then you are starting 3 months behind. A lot of presidencies have to do it. It's not crippling necessarily, but it's a delay. And it's sort of like saying, well, we don't think we'll be in positions of power come, January 2025.
Definitely. And I think this is also what they're doing to Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, and others. I think it's also a warning sign from the regime to other conservatives, right? This is what happens if you defy us. And they're trying to kind of scare us into submission. So I think all of us, from the January 6th attendee who's being harassed to, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, have to be willing to continually defy the system and, not submit and not be afraid of the crushing weight that it can exact on you.
Do you think that the American people watch Congress closely enough to feel like actions like this are a good sign, or is it all sort of, drama within an already kind of enclosed circle?
I think they pay attention, and I think that they want to see some action. Like you were saying, there's been a lot of strongly worded letters, stern finger shakings, but there really hasn't been any action from the GOP. And I think it's been frustrating for voters, right? Because we have had the House, the 118th Congress hasn't really sent any subpoenas. They haven't prosecuted people. They haven't, done anything I think that the American people thought they were going to do. We thought when we set up the weaponization committee that we were going to have, a new church committee, that we were going to really go after these government bureaucrats, that we were going to defund these woke and weaponized agencies. And now the American people with, just a few months left in this Congress are seeing that hasn't happened, and they're demanding action. So I think something like this is going to go a long way for voters who just want to see the GOP put up some sort of fight. Because as I was saying, we've been kind of all talk, no walk, and voters are really frustrated with that, and they see through it. I think we used to, pre-Trump, politicians used to be able to talk nice, and we didn't really think much of it. But now Trump has exposed both left and right how the system works, how politicians sell out. They tell you one thing, they get to DC, vote the other way, and people post-Trump are really just available. They're aware of that, and they're done with these kind of, just polished politicians that give them the right talking points, but then don't actually do the votes that they need to be making.
That's what I liked about Tommy Tuberville's or Senator his hold on any military appointments and promotions, because of the DOD's policy regarding paying for people's travel when they're leaving whatever state they're stationed in to go get an abortion. And he was like, I don't believe in this. They should not be involved. That is ultimately funding abortion. And it made me laugh because everyone would be like, he is holding up hundreds of nominations, which he was. On the other hand, actually, they always could have called the votes to the floor. It would have just gone more slowly. If they had wanted to spend a little extra time working, they could have kept moving promotions and appointments along. And so they allowed this blockade to happen because ultimately they didn't want to have to compromise on abortion. He said, if we hold a vote to codify this into law, Tuberville was like, then I'll drop my thing. But they never called it to the floor. They didn't continue with appointments. And instead, he single-handedly held up one of these things and became a huge enemy for leftists over this issue. And I always liked it because it was like, oh, you are protesting in a way that I think is effective. I like this bill because we should take action, especially if there are easy ways. If the judicial system is, unfairly treating people because of this subpoena, then doing something about it on the congressional side is perfect. I wish that we saw this kind of creative movement more often with Republican lawmakers.
I mean, to be honest, I don't even know how creative it is. It seems kind of basic, but I'm glad they're doing it.
It seems basic, but they're doing it. I have nothing to say other than they could have done this a little while ago, right? Like somebody
before Peter Navarro went to prison.
Yeah. Eventually someone stepped up and thought of it. But.
If rescinding the committee's ability to issue subpoenas in general, would that then negatively impact other people that they'd subpoenaed? Would they have to start removing testimony, letting people out of prison?
I think once things are in record, that's...
Well, it's just Navarro, right?
Navarro's the only one who's incarcerated right now. There's obviously other people who hang
3 other people, I think.
It's
Incarcerated?
No. 3 other people that are going to be affected by this.
Right. And Bannon's got to go to prison in a couple weeks.
Yeah, if doesn't get rescinded, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So again, maybe it would have been nice if we came up with this idea a couple months ago. Peter Navarro was on the show shortly before he had to. He was in the middle of his final appeal, I think. And I wish we had come up with this then. But, better late than never. And I hope he sees some sort of restitution for it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.